Hello and welcome to Building High Performance Cultures, a weekly series where we talk with executives from top organizations about how they've built high performance cultures and how they're leveraging their culture as competitive advantage. I'm Marty Parker, the President and CEO of Waterstone Human Capital, and my guest today is the President of AstraZeneca Canada, Jane Chung. Jane, welcome to Building High Performance Cultures.
Thank you, Marty. Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you. Now, a little bit more about Jane. So Jane is a proven business and people leader with nearly 20 years of experience in the North American biopharmaceutical industry. With a strong focus on driving culture of employee empowerment and engagement, she came to AstraZeneca Canada after playing a critical role in building and leading the company's oncology franchise in the United States. And most recently, she served as vice president and head of AstraZeneca's US immuno-oncology franchise, where she was accountable for all aspects of marketing and sales of the company's immuno-oncology medicines. And prior to this, she led the oncology business in the US West region as the senior commercial business director. Now, before joining AstraZeneca, Jane held diverse roles with Onyx Pharmaceuticals, Genentech, Novartis, and Pharmacia. And a former practicing clinical pharmacist, her firsthand experience in patient care helps fuel her passion and power of science to make a meaningful difference in the lives of people. And that means a lot in a day like today. Now, Jane, I can't imagine that there's anyone on the face of the earth right now who is not familiar with AstraZeneca, as you can imagine. But just in case they've been somewhere under a rock or without any technology for the last 10 plus months, tell us a little bit about the organization and particularly about the culture of AstraZeneca Canada, a culture, by the way, that has been named recently as a 2020 Canada's Most Admired Corporate Culture winner with our own Waterstones program. So give us a little detail of AstraZeneca, the business, and the culture here in Canada.
So thanks for having me here today with you, Marty, and appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more about AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca is a global biopharmaceutical company that's focused in science, discovery, development, and commercialization in areas of oncology, cardiovascular metabolic disease, and respiratory and immunology. In Canada, we have roughly 950 employees across the country, and we actually have a global clinical hub that runs trials out of Canada, almost about 100 clinical trials in 50 different countries. And I think what's really exciting today is the science has advanced in such a advanced and innovative way. We're talking about medicines that are completely redefining standard of care and transforming sort of the treatment paradigm for many diseases. And this is really very, very exciting. And also incredibly exciting is that we've had an ability to help fight the pandemic with COVID. And so while we were not traditionally a vaccines company historically, we have actually partnered with University of Oxford to deliver one of their vaccine candidates to help out in this pandemic effort to do what we can to help the community.
Well, AstraZeneca has, of course, made headlines most recently. The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine being approved and being rolled out in a number of countries. But talk a little bit, Jane, if you would, about the response to COVID-19 pandemic that AstraZeneca Canada has had and the work you're doing to support the health of patients during this time.
Yeah, so I've been incredibly proud of how the AstraZeneca team and company has really tried to help out in this unique circumstance. I've always believed that, in times of challenge and difficulty, sometimes it brings out the best in people and the best in companies. And what we've been able to do at AstraZeneca is actually partner with University of Oxford, who have an expertise in this field, in this scientific area. And what we've done is made a commitment to equitable distribution across the world for both high, medium, and low income countries. And I think we were one of the first companies to actually share that we would do this at a not-for-profit during the pandemic. So I think it's really an opportunity to help the world in our way by focusing on the science that is transformative and that is innovative, and do our part in getting us back to some semblance of normalcy. I would also say that I've been incredibly proud of how the team has come together in other ways to help out the COVID pandemic, above and beyond just the vaccine candidate, which is critically important. But in addition to that, we have actually donated 200,000 surgical masks and N95 masks to the Public Health Agency of Canada, as well as clinical pharmacists. And in addition, we have tried to serve the vulnerable patient population with respect to all the existing patients that are currently on AstraZeneca medicines. How do we continue to provide adequate supply for those patients, for our patients that we have the privilege to serve? And then in addition to that, we've also donated to the Canada food banks, so to make sure that people have the necessary basics in order to survive in this pandemic. And in addition to that, we've actually stood up an AZ Cares program that actually impacts that tries to provide our medicines free of charge for any person that has somehow been adversely impacted by COVID and have lost their employment.
Clearly, there's a culture of care at AstraZeneca. But beyond that, how would you describe the culture at AstraZeneca Canada?
Yeah, at AstraZeneca Canada, it's really quite remarkable. As you mentioned earlier, I've been very fortunate to be part of several different companies in my career. And I can say what really stands out about AstraZeneca Canada is its people focus and its patient focus. I think in pharma, in our industry, there is inherent value and reward that comes from bringing great medicines to life and to bring them to market to help patients live a better and extended life. That's inherent. But when we see science advancing at such a trajectory where you're not talking about incremental change at this point, you're talking about transformative change to bring life-ending diseases to more chronic situations and really revolutionizing some of those disease areas, I think that's really compelling in and of itself. But at the same time, great science, great data in and of themselves do not move a market. They do not build a market in and of themselves. So we actually, that's why we focus so much on people. And I've always had this mindset that you take care of people and then people take care of the business. And we have that philosophy, and it's fundamental to AstraZeneca and AstraZeneca Canada. And so we really try to do our best to create an environment where it's safe for people to really thrive and get engaged and feel comfortable to be themselves, and to help contribute to how we want to shape our future together. So I think it's a very vibrant one. There's a lot of high energy, high engagement. We take culture very seriously at AstraZeneca Canada. Not every place does that, sadly, and it matters. It really matters in getting the best out of your people.
Yeah, it really does, and you understand that. As president, Jane, how do you see your own role in terms of affecting, leading, enhancing the culture at AstraZeneca Canada?
Yeah, great question. I think, so let me be clear. I think culture and success in a company is not built on the backs of one person. You need a team, you need great people, you need a great environment. And so I think as president, it's important to set a very positive and healthy tone and the value of culture, and supporting a very open, nurturing environment, safe environment for people to contribute and say what's on their minds and share what's important to them. And then I also think what helps in motivating people is sharing context and the why behind our decisions. And many times we don't spend enough time communicating the context or the why. We spend more time on the what. And so, sorry about the beeping. And then finally, I would say, I think it's incumbent on everybody to contribute to that culture. Culture is not something that stands alone and is stagnant. It actually grows with the evolution and growth of the team, and everybody has an opportunity to contribute to what that looks like, how that feels, and how we shape it, our future together.
Yeah. Well said. And always a challenge, though, in a high performance culture like AstraZeneca Canada to find the balance between being people focused and high performance. And how do you do that?
It's a great question. I think that I try to keep things simple. In our world, in my job, it's about people and it's about the business. The business part is actually quite a lot easier. What it takes to make strategic decisions and numbers and all of the financials and sort of your priorities. That's something a bit easier for me. It's the people piece that takes more time and more investment. Everybody's motivated by something different. And how do you tap into that to really get the best out of your people and your team? That's where you want to make sure that that the people investment, the people strategy is just as important, if not more so, in delivering great success for a company. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have this belief that people are the ones that drive your business, you take care of your people, and then the rest will follow. I think that's why it's so important that we focus on that. Yeah.
You bet. Now, when we spoke a few months ago, a number of months ago now, around the Canada's Most Admired Cultures Award process, you described the AstraZeneca Canada kind of culture as being speak up, or as you put it, a speak up culture, where people feel comfortable asking questions, raising concerns, have that, what we call psychological safety, if you will. Why is this so important, and how do you develop and maintain a culture where people feel safe to speak up?
Yeah, so why it's important is because, again, a company's success is not built on one person having all the answers, right? We know and value there's no stronger or more compelling way to value your people by other than by listening to them. And many we hire very talented people with expertise in their area, and why would we hire them and then not listen to them? We need to tap into how they're thinking, what they're thinking, so that we can all be better together. And it goes to not only making the better decisions around your business decisions, but it also goes to motivating and making people feel like they have an opportunity to speak up and have skin in the game and shape our future together, right? So it has a dual effect in that way. I think how we do it is we start off by really listening. And we make sure that we try to listen for understanding, not to just hear people, but understand why and what they may be saying, and appreciate sort of where they're coming from that. And I think, how we do it, we can, in this new environment, with the advances of virtual connections, we try to, I think it has made it easier to some extent, right? To be able to connect with many more people, and probably in more intimate environments where people can have this face-to-face, although it's not live, it's virtual, but it helps you connect with folks. And I think that's, I think it's really important to have a good understanding and good insights at all levels of the organization. For me, culture is a bit of a measure of having a voice at every level of the organization. It's sometimes when you ask people, how do you define culture? It's very hard to do. But to me, it's very simple. If you have an ear and you give a voice to people at every level of the organization, it can be very powerful. And people feel like they have skin in the game to be able to help shape and do more. And what they do is so meaningful to the company's success that it is a bit of a very self-cycle sort of motivating thing for people. Yeah.
And it's not hard to do because it requires a lot of asking and even more listening.
Yeah, we've actually started doing some roundtables where, we don't have an agenda. It's an open agenda. And it kind of made people uncomfortable in the beginning, but it's actually very effective to say, okay, we're going to turn these events on its head, and we're going to listen to our team and what's on your mind. What are the things that we could be doing better? What are the pain points that you're seeing in your life, whether it comes to life or work, and what are the needs, and how can we continue to improve and challenge the status quo and improve what we do every day.
Yeah, well, sometimes no agenda can lead to some very interesting insights, can it?
Yeah, it's actually become some of the more popular events where people are actually, the attendance to those types of events. In the beginning, people were a little bit scared, in terms of fearful of what they may say. Is there any retribution towards, radical honesty, if you will? But if you really have an open agenda, and you listen for understanding, and can model that and demonstrate that to others, people feel a lot safer to be able to engage that way. And I think it's critically important for us to continue to do that, especially since our futures and our current state of the world is so different. And so we're going to have to lean on every area of our business to get us through this.
Right. And speaking of speak up,
Yeah.
how does the speak up culture tie into your approach to diversity and inclusion, subjects we are kind of all obsessing about these days for good reason?
Yeah, I think it's ties very complementary. It gives us a path towards embracing inclusion and diversity, and a path to doing that effectively. To me, diversity is, of course, having a different background and culture, and appreciating and valuing all that, but it's also about different thinking and different perspectives. And Speak Up allows you to share those different perspectives more freely, and also in a safe environment where people feel that they can share their unique uh, experiences, their unique insights and learnings. That's when the magic happens. And so how do we tap into that more so? Because, I think the new normal will require us to do different things. And what's made us successful in the past is not going to be enough for us to be successful in the future. We have to tap into the diversity of our experiences, our learnings, and our people, and really be more disruptive in how we engage and how we deliver success in the future.
Right. No, agreed with that. Um, Now, in addition to fostering this kind of speak up culture where people can express themselves, you have a number of other ways to gain feedback and to listen to your employees. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about how you measure culture and engagement and how you action that feedback.
Yeah, we talked about the roundtables and the conference calls with open agendas and so forth. Uh, at AstraZeneca, we take this seriously. We actually measure this as part of our performance every year. We actually have a comprehensive employee engagement, employee feedback survey that's done twice a year. That's as an integral part of our business. People know we call it Pulse, and we measure sort of our engagement scores, and we also allow for free text. I'm one of those a bit off. I'm a bit passionate about feedback, and one of those people that's really passionate about feedback. And so I will take the time to read all of the thousands of comments that come in the free text, to really try to understand the high level scores that we receive. Because I think if people are willing to take the time to give us the feedback, then we should value that input and actually take the time to really read and understand where they're coming from. So to me, these are highly valuable, and we it's a normal part of our way of operating. And I think this is a really great strategy to continue that the way we measure engagement.
Oh, very good. Now, through your 20 plus year career, I'm sure you've received a lot of great insight, counsel, experience, and advice. But what's the best advice you've ever received, Jane? And how did it help shape you, particularly as a leader?
Yeah, I think in my 20 years career or life, I think there's many people who will um, either tell you that you can't do something, or that you will have a different path for you based on their own experiences. And I think, what's really important, and as people grow in their careers and they get a better sense of themselves, that it's important to listen to your own inner voice, and believe in yourself and know thyself in a stronger way. Um, Everybody can, if you speak to 25 different people about your about career and development, you'll get 25 different versions of what you could potentially do. And so, how do you know yourself well enough that you know where your strengths are and where your vulnerabilities are and where you're going to invest? Because every individual will take a different path potentially. At AstraZeneca Canada, we don't believe that there's an algorithm that you need to necessarily check the box on 5 different steps to get to a certain position. It's about knowing yourself, and everybody will take a different path um, based on their strengths and their unique areas of growth.
So you've really focused on your own and what you bring by kind of knowing yourself. And I think, by the way, I think above all, you can learn, a lot of us can learn a lot of different skills, and there are a lot of great ones to learn, but unless we shape them around our own gifts and talents, it doesn't come across as authentic.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think what you've learned and what you've shared here
It's
is
not easy to do, Marty. It's not
right.
easy to do, because I
No,
think early on in your career, you're highly impressionable. You see big leaders actually demonstrate some great qualities. You want to emulate those. And so you want to demonstrate proficiency so quickly. And then you may or may not really understand how you can come into that authentically. And finding your authentic voice is a journey. And for different folks, I can tell you that I am a bit of a pleaser. I try to make people happy if I can. It's not always possible to make everybody happy. It's a hard lesson I've had to learn. But at the same time, how do you still stay you and authentically you? And we talked about sort of the speak up culture, and how do you also make people feel safe. It's also not being perfect, right? There are times where I will think out loud, and will come and will be unfiltered, and that's okay. And I think it's okay to show people that you're not a perfect person as well, because then they don't expect that they themselves have to be perfect as well.
in fact, I think it's critical that vulnerability drives authenticity.
Yes.
And then, borrowing those things that align to our authentic selves, but your authentic voice, I think philosophy, I'll call it, is a great one. And unfortunately, at least in my experience, and I started in pharma, I didn't stay in pharma. And it was a great experience for me with Johnson & Johnson, absolutely terrific. But through that experience and every other one I've had, including, almost 20 years of being an entrepreneur, there is no course on finding your authentic voice that I've uncovered yet. It's time, and it's the generosity of spirit of others who remind you in the most caring of way of what you might be like. And when you hear it enough, you might even listen. And so I think you're right. I think you've touched on something that is such a critical pillar, a foundation of having the rest go right. And I can see it's approached the culture that you, as the leader, have helped shape at AstraZeneca Canada.
Yeah.
Now looking out, Jane, pick a number, 3 to 5 years. What do you see as critical to aligning your people to your culture at AstraZeneca Canada and to sustaining your high performance culture?
Yeah, in the next 3 to 5 years, we have a very bold ambition for AstraZeneca Canada. We have the potential with our transformative science and our rich pipeline that uh, we could be one of the top three companies, pharmaceutical companies in Canada. And at the same time, I think it's more than just revenue. It is about and business opportunity. It's more than that. COVID has taught us that very real lesson that it's also about doing good in the world. And so how do we strive to be more than just a big pharmaceutical company, but more of like we aspire to be one of the most trusted pharmaceutical companies in Canada, by patients, by the public, by the government. That's going to take a lot more work to build that credibility, that reputation, and that trust. And to me, that is the even bigger goal, if you will, to be able to do that. I think pharma, sometimes the public perception of pharmaceuticals, depending on how close you are to the industry, can be different and can sometimes be negative, more angled around the business than around the patient, science, research and discovery and innovation. And so we have to provide very good examples of how industry can rise above and provide value. And even during this COVID time, never has there been an opportunity to shine a light on what pharmaceutical innovation, research and development can do to help us get back to some sort of semblance of normalcy in our real world. So I think, yeah, we need to tap into doing things differently. Our world has fundamentally changed in COVID, and possibly we needed a little bit of a kick in the butt to actually accelerate some of the technology that we were talking about, 1 year ago or 6 months ago. And that's fine. I see, the digital world is coming. Data is a lot more powerful in terms of how to potentially make our world more efficient and more strategic. How do we really build new capabilities and lean into these transformative changes in a way that's disruptive? You look at different business models that are going to fundamentally change. And so for me, it's we've got great talent. We've got great people, as I mentioned. We're very, very fortunate to have that. So how do we get people to really embrace change, and not because in a way that helps them learn new skills, be more agile, be more nimble, be more disruptive in how we approach the market and our business and our people, to make a difference. And because sometimes human nature is based on human nature is such that what made us successful in the past, we're very confident in that strategy. And so we anchor back to the things that we are comfortable doing. But I need people to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, stretching themselves into new areas, and really reimagining what the new world could be, and what capabilities will need to be stood up and actually strengthened in order for us to have that competitive advantage to be and continue to make a meaningful difference in the world around us.
What a great answer. And I think, it's also exhilarating and frightening at the same time to
Yes,
think,
it is.
and so it's comfortable with being uncomfortable. Can be motivating one day and terrifying the next, right? It just depends on the day you're listening to
Well,
that.
you're not learning unless you're uncomfortable.
Correct.
There's
Yeah.
there's that piece too.
So my last question, not unlike the question of, what you've learned, what's been the biggest impact on you as a leader, but what's the one piece of advice, Jane, that you'd give a young person, to a new leader, to someone who's starting their high performance culture journey, be it in a pharma company, in a manufacturing business, as an entrepreneur? What would you share with them that you think would be invaluable?
Oh, it's interesting. There's so many things to think of. I think early on in anyone's career, if I were to even look back on my own, things there's this hunger for learning and at an incredible pace. People want to shoot to the stars, and then when I speak to millennials today, it's all about getting to the top very quickly. And so, how to sort of make the most of your journey, smell the roses as you go through that process. And big picture perspective, find something you absolutely love and then find a way to get paid for it. Right? That's the holy grail, I think. I love what I do, and I don't actually see it as work. And I have this privilege to work with amazing people, and figure out how to solve different problems and actually still deliver on great medicines that can support and benefit so many patients. That's quite rewarding in and of itself. But then to be able to build teams, build the leaders of the future, that is something that is really so rewarding and so amazing in terms of an opportunity. I would challenge people to kind of find something that they love to do as well, and really find the fun in it as well for the journey. It's not just a race to the top. It's about smelling the roses and really learning, going in with a focus, not to just check the box and say you've done it. I talk to a lot of young people these days, and they're like, well, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this. I'm like, what have you learned in the process? What are those great nuggets that you've walked away saying that you either love this experience or not love this experience? And how does that shape you to what you want to do next and what you want to do in your lifetime? I think that's hopefully some advice I would take back, because I in some respects I do regret not enjoying the experience and the journey as much as I could have, and so I would share that in terms of things to think about.
Yeah, great advice. And there is with those younger developing leaders, there is a hunger. There's an incredible capability, possibly greater than I've ever seen before, but possibly as well taking those experiences around what individuals love and applying them in a series of projects, maybe laterally, is
Yeah.
as helpful as just a more historic, horizontal increase of responsibilities, money, et cetera, that you can do as well and possibly gain more experiences by looking at your career as a series of projects and experiences as opposed to a series of jobs and titles.
It's a great point, Marty, because I myself have taken 4 or 5 lateral moves, and my peers have sometimes questioned me as to why did you do that? And it didn't come with a title, it didn't come with other things, so it wasn't necessarily a promotion, but it was definitely different experiences. I felt I could stretch myself in areas that I was not particularly expert in at that time. And so I do think going deep, but also having breadth is very, very critical in becoming a big leader in the future. You can never do 50 jobs in your career. Maybe some can, but you want to be choiceful in the start of your career. It's good to be strategic and choiceful on the experiences that you want to gain, and how that then rounds out your experience and your skill set to be able to do bigger jobs in the future.
It's true. I did too, and I didn't always feel great about it because I was wondering if I was stepping back or across. But I can tell you that saying yes certainly benefited me a lot more than saying no.
Yeah.
And for some reason, for the most part, on top of a series of maybe non-successes too, I found my way. But I want to first of all thank you, but also just kind of refresh on a few things we heard about today. This concept of finding your authentic voice, I think, is really something that I'll take away from you, Jane, as a important, great understanding for anyone in terms of becoming a better leader and building a higher performance culture, and encouraging that people find that. And I think, with that, believing in yourself, not being afraid to take on kind of challenges, being purposeful and being thoughtful. I do think that we're going to see more trust and authenticity across organizations. But if we look at the brand name pharmaceutical industry, I think it's an incredible opportunity here for us all to take a look at what's been achieved with all sorts of folks inside and outside the industry's help, but something that can be achieved when we put our minds to it, which can be applied to anything. This is an incredible inspirational story that if we pay attention, we're going to be reading case studies on and learning from for time immemorial. And then I really thought that there's this theme in speaking to you about embracing change and embracing the fact that being uncomfortable is what we're going to have to find a way to be comfortable with, particularly if we're going to work our way through this new normal in this new digital society and all the things that bring us, many of which can be great benefits, and possibly even have the courage to know when we can and should be together. So I want to thank you, Jane. This was terrific. We're obviously in great hands with AstraZeneca Canada, with you at the leadership and with your team. And I'm so delighted that you came on today, and even more delighted that AstraZeneca has been named as one of Canada's most admired corporate cultures for 2020. You're a great example of this, and the timing is phenomenal. So thank you, Jane, President of AstraZeneca Canada.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you again, Jane. And join us next week for another episode of Building High Performance Cultures. And in the meantime, if you want to learn more about this topic or some of the interviews or subjects, please join us and visit waterstonehc.com.